Good morning, everybody. My name is Donal Grant. I'm a Water Policy Advisor in the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, as we are now from last week. I just want to talk to you very briefly about some of the current policy issues that we're sort of grappling with. Like I said, I work in the water division of the Department of Housing, and the Water Framework Directive really is the cornerstone of much of what we do. You'll all be familiar with it. It's the main piece of legislation at a European level that is aimed at protecting water quality. There are a number of other directives that feed into it, and you can see them there. They also take up part of our workload. But really, the Water Framework Directive is the key element in developing our own water quality policy. I suppose just to give you a bit of background for anybody that's not aware of, the directive is implemented through a river basin management planning system, which operates on a 6-year cycle. We are currently in the second river basin management plan cycle. That's due to finish up at the end of 2021. So at the moment we are working in the background to develop programs and measures and develop the draft third cycle plan. That plan, the final plan, has to be published by the end of 2021, and then that will run for 6 years to the end of 2027. And I suppose the backdrop to all of this is the continued decline in water quality. The most recent EPA water quality report in 2019 indicated a 5.5% decline in water quality across the board. And one particular area of concern for ourselves that we have been focusing on the second cycle is in high status sites, where high status water bodies have mirrored that same decline. So there's a number of issues that we have to deal with in that regard. In terms of implementation, the implementation in the community is being led by the local authority waters programme, and in relation to agricultural pressures, which are the principal pressure that we've identified on water quality, we have the agricultural sustainability support and advice programme. Because we don't have enough resources at the moment to cover the entire country, we're looking to work in 190 identified areas for action, and we are starting to see some improvements in those areas, but there's still an awful long way to go. The Law Pro teams, they have sort of dual function. Some of them are engaged in catchment assessments out in the field, river walks and that. And others then are engaged in sort of community projects and trying to build custodianship and working within communities to implement improvements in their own water bodies. And I suppose just pulling out from the first and second cycle, really some of the things that we need to work to work on are, I suppose, a better understanding of people's relationships to their local water body, and their behaviour their behaviour towards how they view it, and their actions to either improve or to engage with the overall process. One of the areas that we see as key in the next cycle really is to move towards greater delivery of ecosystem services, and I'll speak about that in a few minutes. And that's really looking at delivering measures that will improve not just water quality, but will also improve on biodiversity and climate mitigation actions. And following on from that, then obviously looking to build stronger policy links in those areas. I suppose just to highlight, just put up a single slide in relation to the Nitrates Directive. It is a key directive in terms of protecting water quality from agricultural sources, and I suppose the reason why it's up here and it's topical is that it's on a 4-year review cycle. The current action programme is due to end in 2021, so again, in parallel with the Water Framework Directive work, we're looking to develop the next action programme in the background. And we'll be commencing a consultation on that in the next few weeks. But again, as it is the primary agricultural protection measure, it's a key element of the river basin management planning process. But again, it's not perfect. It is heavily focused on regulation, and regulation will only get us so far. And I suppose things that we need to work on really are to do more to protect water quality. It's the regulation on its own is not, it's doing a lot, but it's not doing enough. We need to build whatever protections we can develop into the agri-food policy. And we need to develop new ways to implement measures. Like I said, regulation will get us so far, but it won't get us all the way to where we need to get to. Just quickly, some of the high emerging policy issues, to pull them out individually. Obviously, in the background, the context that we're working in is the continual decline of water quality. As I said, we've a focus on high status waters in the current River Basin Management Plan. Hydromorphology, which is the physical status of our water bodies, is a major issue that we're dealing with. And the drinking water source protection is something that we have to put a lot of time and effort into in the next couple of years as well. Some other elements that we are looking to address or to put some more time into is to look at the exemptions that are there in the Water Framework Directive. We've used very few of them to date, but I think it's time that we took a pragmatic approach to them. As I said earlier, to develop stronger policy links across the board, across government, through water quality, biodiversity and climate. They are all inextricably linked, and we need to work to tie them closely together. And behavioural interventions. As I said, we have an awful lot of the science. We don't have is a lot of the sort of the social science, the behavioural science as to why people and people identify people's attitudes towards water quality. We have a number of environmental crises. We have a government declared climate and biodiversity crisis. We don't have a huge amount of narrative around a water crisis. There's some talk, or there has been mention several times, of a drinking water crisis, and we've seen issues in relation to drinking water supply in the last number of years. But in terms of a fresh water quality crisis, this really, and I've just highlighted an article by Ella McSweeney that came out a couple of weeks ago, was really one of the first mentions in mainstream media of a freshwater crisis. I spoke earlier about policy alignment. It's an area that we really are focusing on for the third cycle. I've just highlighted some of the national plans and strategies that are in development at the moment. And as we develop the River Basin Management Plan and the next Nitrates Action Programme, we'll be doing as much as possible to work with other government organisations and state bodies to align our targets and our measures with the measures in those programmes, and where possible to build in water protection measures into the development of those strategies and plans. And everything that I've highlighted there are committed to in the 2020 programme for government, and it's a requirement on us in the department to work with our colleagues in other departments to make sure that we deliver as best we can. Just finally, just in relation to linking to research, and I put this slide up at a workshop earlier on in the year. I suppose at the moment, I think it's probably fair to say that an awful lot of the water-related research hasn't influenced policy formation to date. The department ourselves, we need to be clear on what we want. We need to be more proactive. I think the research community maybe could be more reactive and flexible to what we're trying to do. And hopefully, I think we'll see that in the next EPA Research Framework. And I suppose going forward into the next River Basin Management Plan, it's a 6-year cycle, and I suppose one of the things that we would like to see is some more larger scale projects that would help us to implement a lot of the measures that we have. So that's all I have for now, so thank you very much.